pressing Governor Moore on juvenile crime statewide.
People have to be held to account for their decisions.
New tonight, the questions we still have about his vision for a safer Maryland. Plus, the acting police commissioner faces your burning questions.
The safe street workers you all talk about, I watched them sell drugs.
Tonight, residents take their safety concerns directly to him and to the mayor. A survey ranks Baltimore the dirtiest city in America.
I believe you see car parts, construction pieces, and wood.
We make neighbors' frustrations heard. Optimistic test scores in Maryland schools. Fox 45 News Project Baltimore takes a deep dive into the improvements students are showing and the area still raising concerns. Then 9 Greektown businesses broken into in one night.
If they continue to do this, the Greektown is going to be gone.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
And we are following breaking news out of Northeast Baltimore right now. A barricade situation along Light and Lee Way near Mount Pleasant Golf Course. Baltimore police say officers were chasing a vehicle stolen in an armed carjacking when the people in the car began to open fire, hitting the patrol car near the intersection of Wadsworth Way and Fenwick Avenues. This is what's left of that scene.
Now, police say the suspects then drove onto Light and Lee Way and ran into a house. Police are asking people to avoid that area. We'll continue to update this breaking story as soon as we learn more. Good evening. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. As violence continues to impact Baltimore, Fox 45 News is pushing leaders at the city and state level on how they are working towards solutions.
We have got to make the adjustments necessary that there can be real measurements and levels of accountability.
We're always going to be there. We're always going to be listening to people. This is what we're here doing.
Fox 45's Keith Daniels is hearing the concerns residents brought to Mayor Brandon Scott and Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley.
Our team coverage begins with Mackenzie Frost and Governor Moore's comments tonight.
The governor clearly calling for more accountability when it comes to repeat violent offenders, but he had the chance to tackle that issue during the last legislative session, and now it's unclear what his next steps could be.
Sitting down with political commentator Armstrong Williams for a wide-ranging interview.
I'm calling for greater accountability and greater transparency.
Governor Wes Moore seeing what many people are talking about when it comes to the current laws surrounding crime.
We have got to make the adjustments necessary that there can be real measurements and levels of accountability. When you have a person who is a repeat violent offender, I'm sorry, I'm coming after you.
Last session, the Republican caucus pushed for a bill they say would have done just that, the Violent Firearms Offender Act, and it called for tougher penalties for repeat offenders using guns in their crimes. It was a hallmark bill for former Governor Larry Hogan, who introduced it year after year without success. This year, the GOP-backed plan failing to get traction in both chambers. When it comes to homicides and non-fatal shootings, Governor Moore notes the drop in Baltimore this year. To date, 178 people have been killed in the city. That's down from 229 people killed in the streets at this time last year. The governor argues more needs to be done to prevent people from pulling the trigger first.
We cannot just simply be reactive to violent crime. We've got to make sure we're stopping violent crime before it happens.
But it's unclear how he plans to do that. Another ambiguous plan, tackling the surge in juvenile crime.
We got to make sure we're holding people to account.
The governor has ordered a top-to-bottom review of the Department of Juvenile Services, but the results haven't been announced. While the governor notes carjackings are down this year, there is a surge in cars simply being stolen, and that crisis hitting Baltimore City hard. According to Baltimore police data, from July 9th to August 5th, 1,499 auto thefts have been reported in the city. In the same time frame last year, 312 auto thefts were reported. Moore argues the rash in thefts is organized.
Because oftentimes these are organized crime rings that are also involved in this type of work. We cannot stop being aggressive on this.
It's unclear if that's the case in Baltimore, but many of the suspects are juveniles. And some of those suspects are too young to face charges. Governor Moore has not said what changes to the current juvenile crime laws, if any, he will support when lawmakers return to Annapolis in January.
There will be a legislative hearing scheduled next month to talk about the Department of Juvenile Services, but we don't know if that hearing will result in any changes. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Is
because I see it every day.
Well, the man told the mayor he has video that proves his allegations. The mayor told him, hand them over. Don't hold back. When you see something, say something. The mayor says if guilty, he will hold any city worker accountable. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
All right, Keith, as you heard, one resident brought up his frustration with the Safe Streets program, saying he's seen Safe Streets workers sell drugs. Take another listen.
When we're talking about trust, I want to know, what are you going to do to show the Baltimorean that lives in this? They sees it every day. The Safe Street workers you all talk about, I watch them sell drugs. I watch them.
Well, Fox 45 News has found a number of cases of Safe Streets workers committing crimes, including selling drugs. That includes Ronald Alexander. He was sentenced to more than 11 years in prison for selling drugs. Charging documents included this picture, which appears to show him holding a bag of drugs. Prosecutors say he used his position in the Safe Streets program to try to stop investigators from tracking him. Then there's Vernon Harper. He pleaded guilty to federal drug charges that included dealing drugs in the same Safe Streets zone where he worked. Same picture, sorry, we're going to figure that out. His work with Safe Streets was revealed in his indictment, not by anybody in City Hall. Ronald Brady Jr. was accused of killing a man back in September of 2019. The case went to trial in 2022, but it ended in a hung jury. Brady was acquitted in March, but the victim's family is still highly critical of the Safe Streets program, calling it a criminal enterprise.
My belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
Fox 45 has been demanding answers about Safe Streets workers for years. We know the program hires ex-convicts, but it's not clear if there's a threshold for how serious a crime you can be convicted of and still work for Safe Streets. We also don't know how the city is marking or making sure that workers aren't committing crimes while employed by Safe Streets. This isn't the first time residents have raised transparency concerns. Another resident asked the mayor about it during the town hall with the acting commissioner.
I don't represent any media company or corporation. I do represent, or at least personally represent, a taxpayer, a homeowner, a citizen, and I think we have the right to understand and know better where and how our money is spent.
Well, city council members have also called for more transparency after a hearing on the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. One council member went as far as to say that the city should suspend the funding to the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, which oversees Safe Streets, until there's more transparency in the program. We'd like to hear from you as well. Do you think the city should be more transparent about Safe Streets workers? The poll just opened. Go to our website, foxbaltimore.com/vote, and click on the Pulse tab to weigh in.
Well, residents have been coming to Fox 45 News with complaints of trash buildup and inconsistent pickup for months. And now the data seems to be backing up those claims. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live with some of the dirt on the sanitation problem in Baltimore. You can see it many times when you're just driving around. Jeff?
Exactly. And, you know, researchers have been comparing the number of trash complaints filed in this city with cities in any other part of the country. And what they've discovered has earned Baltimore a new title of the dirtiest city in America. For those who live in Park Heights,
We have alleys like this all through the neighborhood.
they forever waged war with those who dump in Park Heights.
You have a lot of people in the neighborhoods who will ride right down the street and throw a chicken box out the window. They don't care if somebody picks it up or not, because most of the people that trash the neighborhood, most of them don't live it.
Random people can come through and just dump their trash and keep going.
At the abandoned home beside Tasha Gray's place, there's a fresh dump of trash most every week.
It's a rat problem. It creates rats.
The trash problem has grown so great that the online publication House Fresh has dubbed Baltimore the dirtiest city in the country. The title comes after researchers analyzed millions of 311 complaints that come into cities each year and discovered that Baltimore had thousands more sanitation complaints last year than any other city in the country. Sacramento was a distant second.
I believe you. Can't argue with that.
It's disheartening, because we know, a lot of us know how hard we work in community, but get lack of support. And you see car parts and construction pieces and wood and wall and sheetrock and dirt and trash and household goods. It's horrid.
Will Hanna, who leads a community development organization, says the problem doesn't center around a shortage of funds, but where those funds are distributed.
This is DPW. But if they don't have the funds and the resources to clean up stuff like this, then what are we doing as a city?
For now, the city has a dirty new distinction, one that could take a while to clean up.
I hope that this helps some people outside of government to say, hey, let's go and do some community cleanups. Let's go and clean our block, and let's not be number one on this list.
Researchers have also broken down their findings by zip code and found that the top 6 dirty zip codes are right here in Baltimore. The #1 dirtiest zip code in the country was 21213. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Around here overnight into early tomorrow morning, the big news, some cool temperatures. Might even need some long sleeves as you head out in Baltimore. 59 at Columbia, 58 at Westminster. Refreshing on the eastern shore, 50s to near 60, and it looks the same as you head west of the city down I-70. Wednesday planner starts cool and comfortable, ends in the low to mid 80s, but rain could be on the way tomorrow night. I'll let you know when it gets here. My Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, a string of robberies overnight, leaving Greektown residents frustrated and on edge. Hear their calls for accountability from city leadership. Juveniles continuously involved in carjackings across Baltimore. The latest incident involving a 15-year-old and an off-duty police officer. Plus, public school students seem to be improving in core subjects, but questions still remain. Project Baltimore investigates just how far they have fallen behind and the efforts now to get back on track. Public school students in our area are improving in both math and English, according to the latest state test scores released today.
But as Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, the MCAP results are still raising concerns about how far behind students have fallen, especially in math.
State education leaders optimistic, but not satisfied.
Mission's not accomplished until we have close to well over as much as possible 100% of our kids going off to college and careers and reading and writing and doing math well.
On Tuesday, the Maryland State Department of Education released the first results from last school year's state tests, known as the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, or MCAP. In 3rd through 8th grade, where every student is tested, every district in our region saw increases in math and English proficiencies over the previous year. Carroll County schools performed among the best in the state, ranking 2nd overall, while Baltimore City schools ranked at the very bottom, last in both math and English.
I believe we're starting to see our record investments in public education paying off in literacy.
English language arts proficiencies are far outpacing math. Throughout the state, 46.8% of students in 3rd through 8th grade scored proficient in English. In math, it was nearly half that amount, 24.7%. In Baltimore City, for example, just 9.1% of 3rd through 8th graders scored proficient in math, meaning about 91% were not proficient.
We should have brought kids back.
Mohammed Chaudhry took over as state superintendent in July 2021. He was not involved in decisions when to reopen Maryland schools after the pandemic, but he says the state's low math scores are directly related to that decision.
When you look at nationally the level of learning loss that happened, there is strong correlations you can see between how long you waited to bring back kids in person and we waited too long.
Take a look at this chart. These are the math scores broken down by grade. The 3 bars represent 2019, 2022, and 2023. You can see math proficiency improved in all grades compared to last year, but not compared to 2019. Every grade is still behind pre-pandemic levels. English, however, is a different story. On this chart, you can see English proficiency levels for most grades are higher in 2023 compared to pre-pandemic levels. School Board President Clarence Crawford, who was here during the pandemic, blamed what he called sketchy information for the delay in reopening schools.
And at the time, based on what we knew, we did the best we could. Ideally, when you look at it in retrospect, getting children back into classrooms is the smartest and the best thing you can do.
Baltimore City is facing a devastating reality.
Project Baltimore, earlier this year, reported on 23 schools in Baltimore City that in 2022 had 0 students among those tested who scored proficient in math. We can't see if those schools improved until individual school results are released next month. But student performance is a major concern as Superintendent Chaudhry fights for his job. The school board is running out of time to decide if it'll offer Chaudhry a new contract, which would have to be finalized by the end of September. Chaudhry has recently found himself mired in controversy after a Project Baltimore investigation exposed numerous transparency and accountability concerns, which include deleted text messages and a secondary email account he was using to conduct state business.
As well as
with Chaudhry's future as superintendent still uncertain Tuesday, the school board president did not offer any updates on when a vote will take place.
The board is deliberating. The board has not made a decision, and as soon as we have something definitive to say, we will.
There was also one more major development from this week's school board meeting. Project Baltimore was also there to get answers from the state superintendent. For the first time, we were able to ask him about text messages set to auto-delete on his state-issued cell phone, and if that's a violation of state law. We'll show you what he said. We'll also show you who else weighed in on the controversy. That's Wednesday on Fox 45 News at 10.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Well, coming up, decades of abuse within the Archdiocese of Baltimore coming to light. New developments today as victims continue to push for more transparency.
I'm Scott Thuman in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the site of the first presidential debate where the race for the White House truly gets underway. What to watch for, who made the stage, and how strong will the Trump factor be? Complete debate coverage coming up.
And if you'll be headed down the ocean into this weekend, one of the final weekends before Labor Day, and a lot of kids going back to school on Monday, so get to it. Friday, some spotty showers and storms, 83, but look at that, mid to upper 70s over the weekend, mainly dry skies, maybe a shower later Saturday. Water temperatures low 70s. I'm going to let you know how it looks around here into the weekend. Weather Authority forecast.
Jonathan, thank you. And as we head to break, here's a live look at Towson right now at the traffic circle. Looks like a nice night in Baltimore County and in the city.
Taking a look now at the Fox Box. Top left Republicans are ramping up pressure in their probes of Hunter Biden. The House Ways and Means Committee has subpoenaed 2 senior IRS officials for information regarding a meeting in which a whistleblower alleges that now special counsel David Weiss previously claimed he didn't have authority to charge the president's son. David Weiss already dismissing that claim.
On the top right, Teamsters officially approve a 5-year labor deal with UPS, avoiding a potentially destructive strike. 86% of union workers voted for the contract. It includes big wage increases and improved work rules and schedules.
Bottom left, the Biden administration is reinstating safety rules for offshore drilling. The measures had been adopted in 2016, but were revised under the Trump administration. They include more stringent safety requirements for blowout preventers, devices meant to stop the uncontrolled release of oil and gas.
On the bottom right, a report from The New Yorker claims Elon Musk is treated like a diplomat by senior Pentagon officials in regards to the Russia-Ukraine war. The report cites an anonymous spokesperson saying Musk has the authority to grant Pentagon interviews to journalists. The Pentagon's press secretary did not confirm or deny that report, but did say that's not the department's policy.
Ahead at 10:30, at least 9 robberies overnight in Greektown have businesses and residents on edge. What police are saying about potential suspects.
As we head to break, this is a live look right now from northeast Baltimore, where police say they believe suspects who shot at officers after carjacking are barricaded inside a home. More on that coming up after the break.
Well, Fox 45's news is following 3 big stories.
A big legal victory for those pushing for transparency after decades of abuse inside the Archdiocese of Baltimore. Why a judge is ordering previously redacted names to be released.
Auto thefts and carjackings continue to plague Baltimore City residents. The latest incident involving a 15-year-old and an off-duty police officer.
Residents in Greektown are frustrated after a string of 9 separate burglaries overnight.
I want them to see what we're going through. Pay attention to the Greektown, because the Greektown is going to be gone.
We begin there. Baltimore City Police are looking into whether those burglaries are connected.
As authorities search for possible suspects, residents we spoke with fear the ones responsible will never face consequences.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson has their calls for accountability.
In East Baltimore today, disbelief.
I don't know why they're there.
And frustration.
This place here, I'm sorry to say, but they go to hell.
Several businesses in this block of Eastern Ave.
This is a Greektown.
Among at least 9 businesses burglarized overnight. Today, a missing window pane, remnants of shattered glass, another restaurant boarded up. Baltimore police said the crimes were reported between 1:30 and 5 a.m. The criminals reportedly stealing cash from most of the places they hit.
The mess. That's what I see. I don't see nothing else. And the owners, they're looking. Who did it? How are you going to find 3 o'clock in the morning? 3 o'clock in the morning, everybody's sleeping. Look what's happened. They broke his door.
These men both live just across the city-county line, but say they've been coming here to Greektown for years. for a social club to play cards or watch sports.
We drink Greek coffee, we talk about the Greeks here.
And while they're not currently city voters,
when the election coming, they know the Greeks.
This man feels like the politicians only come around so often, making campaign promises.
We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. After that, nothing.
Now pointing to a city he's watched change over the years.
Every day you hear him, if you open the TV to listen to the news, you hear him 3 or 4 people dead. Every teenager now they have gun in his hand.
Worried about what it could mean for a neighborhood he loves.
If they continue to do this, the Greektown is gonna be gone.
Fearing whoever committed these crimes might not face consequences.
Because even if they caught him, wherever there is, the next day be out.
Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, police say there were no injuries and so far no arrests. The only possible suspect description available today, males wearing dark clothes and masks.
The Baltimore City Inspector General's office is out with a new report on attempts to bribe city building inspectors. A complaint alleges a city inspector received a bribe to approve a permit for a residential building. The IG's office wasn't able to verify that. During the investigation, however, the IG found cases where contractors tried to give money to the inspectors. The Department of Housing and Community Development has now rolled out guidelines against bribery.
Well, a victory for child sex abuse survivors tonight as a Maryland court is requiring the Archdiocese of Baltimore to reveal all but 3 names in a report detailing decades of abuse. Of the 158 people listed in the report, 46 names are still redacted. The new names can be released after September 26. Fox 45 News reached out to the Archdiocese for comment, but we have not heard back. In response to the decision, the survivor group SNAP issued a statement saying while they're happy more names will be released, they're disappointed with the comments made by the judge. David Lorenz, one of the survivors, says he's appalled by the judge's statement, putting blame for the abuse on individuals rather than the Archdiocese. Lorenz says the AG report clearly showed the abuse was the result of systemic failures from the Archdiocese and is calling for all of the names to be released. Well, we continue to follow the breaking news out of Northeast Baltimore, a barricade situation along Light and Lee Way near the Mount Pleasant golf course. Police say officers were going after a vehicle stolen in an armed carjacking tonight when the people in the car began to open fire, hitting the patrol car.
Excuse me. Police say the suspects then fled the scene and ran into a house along Light and Lee Way. Police are asking people to avoid that area. We'll continue to update this story as we get more information. Last night, a 15-year-old was shot while police say he was trying to carjack an off-duty police officer. Police say the officer was sitting in his car when the armed teen approached him. The officer then shot the teen in the wrist after the teen pulled out a gun, according to police. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell explains how young people seem to be fueling carjackings across the city after more incidents, according to police.
In Baltimore,
an auto theft for 138 South Curley Street.
A car is stolen every hour, and at least one carjacking is committed every day, according to statistics posted by Baltimore police. And many of these crimes are being committed by juveniles. Just yesterday, Baltimore police confirmed an off-duty police officer shot a 15-year-old who was attempting to carjack him at gunpoint in a neighborhood in Northeast Baltimore. Investigators say the teen later confessed to the crime and detail the getaway car he used had also been reported stolen in the city.
The general reason why cars are stolen nowadays or carjacked is to provide a vehicle to commit other crimes. And by and large, those crimes are being committed by juveniles, some as young as 12, 13 years old. They acquire a vehicle, whether it's by force, which is a carjacking, or just they see a car running or they're otherwise able to get a car started that's not theirs, and then they use it to commit other crimes, including robberies, carjackings, and other thefts.
Former BPD Deputy Commissioner Jason Johnson weighing in on the troubling spike in auto thefts, a more than 200% increase compared to this time last year. At least 5,895 auto thefts as of 3 weeks ago. That translates to more than 24 cars stolen in the city each day. And while carjackings have gone down, at least 289 have been reported so far this year. Most recently, police confirm a Jeep was stolen in an armed carjacking on South Luzerne in Canton around 8 this morning.
I think if there were better means of accountability and there were more consistently applied accountability, we would see the numbers go down.
But concern, fear, and frustration only rising. Some of these armed robberies, auto thefts, and carjackings are leading to shootings and even homicides, like the shooting death of Daryl Benner, killed just steps from his home in Canton by suspects who police say were stealing his nephew's car.
He did take his final breath laying in my lap.
This surveillance video capturing that armed robbery that led to the homicide. The suspects still in the loose. Fox 45 News questioning police, asking what is BPD doing to address this alarming number of auto thefts and or carjackings.
My frustration stands really high with Brandon Scott.
Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Baltimore police didn't directly answer how they're going to address the number of auto thefts. A spokesperson confirmed detectives are looking into a possible connection between the recent violence in the area. No arrests have been reported. Harford County Police say the 17-year-old stabbed Monday afternoon in Havre de Grace has died. That stabbing happened at the McDonald's on Pulaski Highway. Police have arrested 2 suspects, including another 17-year-old. Police say the teens knew each other.
Well, tomorrow night, the unofficial kickoff to the race for the White House, the first Republican presidential debate. 8 candidates have made the stage.
Adding to that drama, GOP frontrunner Donald Trump decided not to take part. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with the preview.
Well, in so many ways, this is the real start to election season, and of course, much of the buzz about who isn't going to be here on the stage in Wisconsin Wednesday night, Donald Trump. But he is hardly the whole story. The media moving into place, the candidates cramming information, and the stakes growing with intensity as 8 contenders will try to make their best and, in some cases, first impression on voters, anxious to take on President Biden next fall.
We are going to run him ragged around this country. We are going to hold him accountable for his failures. We're going to show the American people that there's a better way.
Center stage, Governor Ron DeSantis taking the podium that would go to former President Trump had he not skipped out. The frontrunner feeling little need to expose himself to the inevitable attacks. Trump's senior advisor, Jason Miller.
Why get up there and allow folks to take pot shots at you when you're actually trying to talk about serious proposals? Right now, President Trump doesn't need to. I mean, he's so far ahead. Nobody's clamoring for Joe Biden to debate RFK Jr. on the Democratic side.
And if they focus too much on Trump, that may make it tough for his primary opponents to break through or find traction.
This is vintage Donald Trump. The fact that we're just standing here talking about Donald Trump. I remember in 2015, he was demanding, I think, CNN pay him to participate in the debate because of the big ratings he'd deliver. So he went and did a counter event and never missed another debate after that.
So former President Trump will try to overshadow what takes place here on stage Wednesday by instead sitting down for an interview with former Fox host Tucker Carlson in what some people say could be a bit of a gamble. In Milwaukee, I'm Scott Thuman.
Still ahead. Air quality concerns have been commonplace across the country all summer. Spotlight on America investigates the long-term issues on both physical and mental health.
And around here, if you want to get some time outside to take care of the lawn, I know I have to do that myself. Mostly sunny skies for a Wednesday, good day there. But Thursday, the rain, then Friday, the heat. I'm going to let you know how the weekend shapes up if we get rid of all this. Coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.